we have confidence in our case that it is impeachable, and this president is impeached for life, regardless of any gamesmanship on the part of Mitch McConnell. However, that could still come to bear. But we're confident in the impeachment, and we think that it is enough testimony to remove him from office. However, we want the American people to see the truth. And why are they afraid of the truth?
Nancy Pelosi getting a lot of airtime today on the show. Let me start with this before we dig into Pelosi. She's flailing here. I mean, she's lost this round. Nancy Pelosi, the media is not going to put it this way because so much of Pelosi's power, that she's a grand strategist, a master tactician of the Congress and all this stuff. No. They're always like, yes, queen with Nancy Pelosi, but no. She's cunning, she's ruthless, she's unethical. She'll say whatever she has to say, she'll do whatever she has to do, but that's not the same thing as somebody who has a genius of strategic vision. Not at all. But remember when the whistleblower was the most important person in America? He was going to take down this president to save our republic, right? And the media was all in to help him. Can't know the name of the whistleblower, right? Reported as Eric Sharamella, but can't ever. Am I going to be struck by lightning? Producer Mark, are we safe in here? Did you hear a clap of thunder? Oh, but that would come afterwards. So we would even. I promise, if you get turned into a little pile of carbon because I've invoked the whistleblower's name, I will say very nice things at your funeral, Producer Mark. I just want you to know. And also, if that clap of thunder and if the lightning bolt were able to go through the 15 stories of building above us to go into our dark little what do we call this? Hut. I guess it would be a nice. I'm not even sure it qualifies as a hut in here, but if in fact you were instantaneously turned into some steaming carbon,
sure,
I would have nothing but the most, and I would show up wearing your choice of either Islanders or Rangers jersey to your funeral.
Always a Ranger jersey, please.
Rangers jersey, yeah. Okay.
Don't wear that trash to mine.
But we're still going to go to an Islanders game. Just
you said you didn't want to go to Nassau Coliseum. So.
I might change my mind.
All right. You saw the ticket prices finally?
Yeah, it's expensive. Rangers games are expensive. Papa Buck needs a new pair of shoes. Okay. Back into Pelosi's gambit here. I mean, she has run out of options here, right? I mean, she kept trying. They kept trying to come up with something because impeachment now is a huge stain on Pelosi's tenure. There's no question about it. Impeachment doesn't look good for her. She can say that the president is impeached for life, but very soon, guess what we're going to be able to say? The president was exonerated for life, too. Boom. What do you got to say now, Pelosi? What's next? They've also really lowered. They've taken the threshold that we all should understand would be there for an impeachment. They've lowered that threshold so that now it's just a petty tool of partisan attack. And it was not supposed to be that. It was the tool of last resort with a clear, unambiguous charge that would make people who are politically, if you cannot get any person who is a supporter of the president you oppose, any person to come forward and say, you know what, I've changed my mind because of this. Well, what does that tell you? And people say, oh, but what about, I don't know, like Justin Amash or something? I never trusted that guy. I mean, people that you actually wouldn't expect to be turncoats against the president. But there we have it. Pelosi is going to have to transmit those articles. And my man Jesse Kelly, wherever you are, Jesse Kelly, hashtag Buck gets a steak. We made that bet on air on my show. I was going to pay up. I'm going to make Jesse Kelly. We're talking tomahawk ribeye. I guess you call it if it was a tomahawk ribeye. Ah, gosh, I can't even say it. That's how hungry I am. It's one of those days here in the Freedom Hut. So Pelosi is going to have to transmit these articles. And she also has to come up with different ways to try to massage this. So she has to give the media their talking points so they can be all, oh, yes, Nancy's such a genius. She's so smart on this stuff. And she's also trying to tell us that, don't worry, Trump's not going to be in the White House. One way or another, Trump's not going to be in the White House come a year and a couple of weeks from now. This is the new line. Please play, producer Mark, 19 here so we can hear from Nancy herself on this one.
But again, it's Sunday morning. Let's be optimistic about the future, a future that will not have Donald Trump in the White House. One way or another, 10 months from now, we will have an election if we don't have him removed sooner. But again, he will be impeached forever.
This is like Nancy Pelosi standing in front of a house that she just set on fire by accident and saying, whoa, everybody, calm down. There's plenty of time to point fingers of blame later. Let's just focus now on what a beautiful house will be built behind me when this heap of ashes is moved aside and all the people's belongings that are lost forever find their way into a trash heap. And we will move on to the beautiful house that will be built then. I mean, this is a total misdirection play from Nancy Pelosi. Let's focus on how the president's not going to be in office. The president's not going to be the president. Going forward. No, I think we should focus on how Nancy Pelosi decided that she was going to give the insane left-wing base what they no question what they wanted. They have wanted all along here. But it wasn't a good move. It wasn't intelligent. It wasn't the way it was supposed to go. And Pelosi's having a bad week between impeachment and the fake news Nancy hashtag that's trending on Twitter, because of her disastrous answer to that Stephanopoulos question, showing not a modicum, not a smidgen, to borrow from that. Remember Obama with not a smidgen of corruption at the IRS, except for the targeting of conservatives, which they admitted to in an election year, but not a smidgen of corruption other than that. The reality here is that Pelosi had not a smidgen of respect, not a smidgen of consideration for the people of Iran who are actively risking their lives right now to speak out against a regime that does not allow that. It does not allow that. And you do have, you have idiots like Bill Weld. I wanted to get to this. I know we're moving past Iran, but I want to get back to this for a second. People like to do this. They like to compare Trump to authoritarian regimes that kill and imprison journalists because Trump will make fun of journalists. That just shows you what a bunch of thin-skinned wimps most journalists really are, because they can't be mocked publicly without thinking that that's basically the same thing as being, tied upside down and beaten with rods until you pass out from the pain. Like they think that's more or less the same thing. There's an equivalency here. And then you even have Democrat politicians that give voice to this because, anything to attack Trump. Producer Mark, clip 2, if you would, please.
You're running against not just Trump, but the pro-Trump media as well?
Well, people say, what about Fox News? And I've been on Fox News plenty in the old days. Yeah. I mean, this is not about Fox News. This is about Donald J. Trump, who demands exclusive loyalty from everybody. And now we know the one bit of good news today is we know that he wants reporters to roam free in Iran. But the only problem is he doesn't want them to roam free in the United States because he says to us, a free press is the enemy of the people. And, starting with Jim Comey, as far as I can tell, this president has demanded not only loyalty, but exclusive loyalty from everybody. And, you not only got to be loyal to him, you got to not be loyal to the truth.
I mean, Weld is a moron. What he said there was indefensibly stupid.
Also, Brian Stelter is not actually challenging him on anything. He's Brian Stelter. I have a show on CNN. Nobody knows why. I just do whatever Judge Zucker tells me to.
Bill Weld says that Trump doesn't want reporters to roam free in the United States. Really? Well, what are the actions that he's taken? What has he actually done? It was Obama. Let's remember this. Obama who was pulling the phone records of journalists. It was Obama who was using the Espionage Act to not only prosecute whistleblowers, but using the Espionage Act to list in DOJ indictments journalists as unindicted co-conspirators for the crime of getting information using national security sources to publish stories. And it was the Obama administration that used the Espionage Act more than every presidency before it combined. And the press just took it. Yeah, there was a couple editorials. One or two people at CNN. This is troubling. This is a troubling precedent. Never like, this is tyrannical BS and Obama's out of control with this stuff. I mean, it was always, oh, we are troubled by this new precedent set that could be a threat to the First Amendment in some ways, but we have faith that the Obama administration will take care of this. It'll all be fine. Yeah, because Trump tells us the truth about how journalists are frauds and that they are not nonpartisan, they're not disinterested parties in the national conversation and certainly national politics. He's just like the mullahs who imprison journalists, who torture and murder journalists. Just the same thing. Only a moron could believe this. I just don't know. I can never find. I feel like this has become it's not only a recurring theme. I feel like I'm in some way failing you on this one. I can't really assess with these libs whether it's more that they're dumb or they're dishonest on some of these issues. Like they're too stupid to know why they're so wrong, or they're just such liars and so invested. Is it an 80-20 proposition? Is it 50-50? I wish I could give you a scientific number, but I know it is both. It is both, to be sure. And that's where the situation stands with impeachment, my friends. It is both stupid and dishonorable. This was going to be the moment that Pelosi had the articles, that she established some new dominance over Mitch McConnell in the Senate. Mitch McConnell, I wish we could have a live view of his office, because I feel like Cocaine Mitch is sitting there with a giant cohiba in one hand and a list of judges that he is confirming in the other, just guffawing every time he sees on the TV Pelosi, saying, "Oh, they better have a fair Senate trial, or else we're not going to transmit." Mitch is like, "Great, don't transmit him. We'll just say that we shut this thing down. We've got what we've got. See you later." And by the way, I feel very strongly they should shut it down. No, don't treat this with any more seriousness than it deserves. It deserves zero seriousness, zero respect. This is unacceptable. That's the way we should view this. That's the way we should treat this. Shut it down. Slap it down. Dunzo. I just sit around and have some long, drawn-out conversation, have some national dialogue about all this? I think not. I think not. The urgent impeachment that was so urgent that Pelosi's now, 6 weeks sitting on it, not transmitting it? It's been over a month, maybe 5 weeks then, I guess. Oh, it was so urgent until it wasn't, because it was always about what was most effective, most helpful for Democrats. Well, that's not about urgency. That's expediency. These are different words. Pelosi should use a dictionary. But, again, stupid or dishonest? It's anybody's guess. Cory Booker is out. My friends, Cory Booker is one of these politicians that the Democrat elite establishment just loves. They love Cory Booker. They think he's amazing. He's just so smart, and he's a hunk, and he's wonderful, and all this stuff. I mean, he's not, as my friend Michael Malice referred to me last week, I'm not sure he's a macrocephalic hunk, because I've got a giant head. I don't know. Some of you can disagree with the hunk part for me, but macrocephalic is just fact-check true. But they think Cory Booker's incredible. They love him. He's treated with tremendous warmth and eagerness by the national liberal media. And the guy couldn't get above like 2 or 3% ever in the polls. No one was enthusiastic on the Democrat side in terms of voters, really, about making this guy the next president of the United States. And I will never forget his greatest, producer Mark, do we have this? His greatest ever moment, and by greatest I mean most laughable, in the Senate. Play it.
I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. This is about the closest I'll probably ever have in my life to an I am Spartacus moment.
I'm Spartacus!
Oh, there we go. You had both of them for, yeah. Cory, I am Spartacus Booker, claiming that, he's speaking truth to power. He's standing up for what he needs to stand up for and all this stuff. No. That was during the Kavanaugh thing. I never forgave Cory Booker for that. Not that I was a Cory Booker fan other than that. I do find him less... He would give these speeches where he's trying so hard to be earnest, and I will tell you, I think he's probably a pretty nice guy. I do get that sense. Unlike some of these, you can always tell. You look at these politicians. Like Bernie Sanders is not a nice guy, by the way. I mean, some of these people are just not very nice. Amy Klobuchar, yeah, the stories you already know, but not that nice. I think Cory Booker's probably a nice guy. And you can yell at me for saying the same way I think Tulsi Gabbard's probably fun to go go hop on a surfboard and hang out and drink some, what's like a Hawaii? I was going to say Mai Tai, but that's not a Hawaiian drink. What's a Hawaiian drink? Anyway, you can go hang out with Tulsi Gabbard. I feel like she's probably pretty cool. I feel like Cory Booker's probably a nice guy. That's why people like him. But why Cory Booker? Well, that was the question that he was really never able to answer to the satisfaction of the Democrat base. Why would Cory Booker be somebody who, given all these other possible candidates in the mix, that you'd want to go for? And that then brings me to what you'd have to call the Bloomberg effect. Now, I technically worked for Mayor Bloomberg at one point when I was at the NYPD Intelligence Division as an intelligence specialist, which is just a fancy way of saying a civilian contractor working on counterterrorism issues, or a not fancy way of saying it. Really, it sounds like I was, plugging in computers or something, but which we did some of that for sure. But the NYPD, in a sense, the commander-in-chief of the NYPD is the mayor, which is terrifying when you think about the fact that de Blasio is the mayor of New York City today. And maybe even more terrifying to think about how everyone thought Anthony Weiner, oh yeah, that Weiner, everyone thought that he was going to be the next mayor of New York City. But Bloomberg is spending money in a way that no one's ever seen before in politics. Now, it is the case that money cannot buy elections. Just ask Jeb! Exclamation. And the $100 million that he spent to get, I don't know, a handful of delegates maybe or something. He spent $100 million. $100 million, okay, spent for Jeb Bush to not go anywhere. And Hillary's campaign, I think all in, spent at least, I'm just doing this from memory, so I could be wrong. I think it was double what the Trump campaign spent. That's an enormous advantage, right? If one campaign spends $750 million, which I think is, and the other campaign spends $1.5 billion, you would think that, but as we know, sorry, Hillary, what happened? What happened was she lost. But now you have somebody who could easily spend of his own money $1 billion, $2 billion. Now, I don't know if, I think that you can't actually buy the presidency in the sense that you alone with that money wouldn't be able to just say, I'm going to be the next president. I don't think that's possible. But we have to look at what is possible, and maybe that's worth a moment of our time.
In a nation in which Major League ball players can sign contracts for hundreds of millions of dollars, we can pay teachers $60,000 a year in salary.
You might say, why would you play that clip for us, Buck? I thought we were talking about Bloomberg and spending money. Oh, no. It's important to play that clip for you because Democrats who live in the real world, Democrats who don't get all of their information from, Daily Kos, or did they shut that one down? I think that one got shut down. HuffPo, Salon, Talking Points Memo, all those different places that leftists will get there. They're socialists. Let's just say it. Can we just start calling them socialists more, by the way? I think that sounds like the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. So they're socialists. And, Bernie Sanders shows you that he just has no understanding of how market forces work. In a nation in which Major League ball players can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, we pay teachers $60,000 a year on salary. Or we can pay teachers $60,000 a year on salary. To this, I would point out, okay, what is the determination? Let's just start with Major League Baseball players. How many people can be, and when he talks about hundreds of millions of dollars, even producer Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, there are players who sign those contracts, but there can't be more than, a dozen or two that are hundreds of millions of dollar contracts?
100 million contracts off the top of my head. It probably 20 to 30
Yeah,
players.
okay, So you got to. Let's just make this easy. You got to be a top 50.
Yeah, the superstars
player.
of the game, the best players.
Right.
Yes,
You got to be top 50 player. To be a top 50, I mean, just for some basic market economics here, to be a top 50 baseball player in the United States, a country of 300 and let's call it 30 million people. Oh, and by the way, you have to be better than the best pitchers in Japan, the best pitchers in Cuba, in the Dominican Republic. I'm just trying to think of places that have a long and storied history of baseball. Am I leaving any big ones out?
No, but they all inevitably come to Major League Baseball to play.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
You're competing against the best of Japan, the best of Cuba, the best of Dominican Republic. So you got these different competitive realities out there. And if you were to do the numbers on it, if you devote your life to playing baseball, the chance of you having even being in the major league, never mind being in this top 50 realm that producer Mark and I are talking about, you're in like the 0.00001% category. Okay? It's really, really hard. It's very, very, very small chance overall of people that are, when I say devote your life, I mean, spend all of your youth, play in high school and, then try to play in college or whatever, with all that going on. So if you want to be a teacher, and I'm not knocking teachers, but if you want to be a teacher and you're a nice person with a, solid education and you're reasonable, and by the way, a lot of people in the public school system are like reasonable with kids, good education. What teachers are you talking about? Because there's a lot of riffraff in the teachers' ranks. There's no question. There's a lot of weak stuff. But there's also fantastic ones. I mean, I still have teachers that I think back to this day with tremendous fondness and really feel that they shaped my thinking in ways that affect what I'm saying to you today. And I'm talking about teachers I had when I was in the 4th grade, teachers in the 8th grade, teachers, going way back. I'm an old man now, so this is kicking it back quite a ways. But there are market forces that determine why people who are public school teachers make roughly X and why the best baseball players in the world make Y. And when people are willing to pay, now I might have to take producer Mark and producer Brand to a baseball game too. Although if it's a Mets game, I feel like that's probably pretty cheap. But if it's true, he wanted to give you some guff on that. But come on, the Mets, don't they give them away with like samples of Tide? They give away those tickets?
No, not anymore.
Oh, really?
I mean, I have my ways of getting into that place.
Oh. Well, there we go. You realize some people.
You realize where I worked before here, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See, we're definitely going to baseball.
Uh-huh.
Bob a Buck doesn't have to shell out the big bucks for that one. We're going to a baseball game in the springtime for sure. So, where was I on this one? Market forces. Bernie Sanders rejects them. Bloomberg. Here's where I'm really trying to take you. And I've been saying this for a long time. In fact, my old friend. And, the guy that I'm a loyalty person. I will always be thankful to Glenn Beck for starting my career in media, saving me from business school and putting me on this course where I get to talk to you every day. So you will never hear me say anything about Glenn other than he's a magnificently talented performer, and I owe him. But I do remember having an on-air discussion with Glenn once about Bloomberg and just saying that, look, I'm not as concerned in a sense about the Bernie Sanders effect as I am about the Bloomberg effect. Or let me put this a different way. If you're worried about winning elections, Bernie Sanders, he may win, but he'll probably win once, right? Because he's an incompetent. He's a Jimmy Carter with more communism, right? He's an incompetent, doesn't understand the markets. The economy would tank. There'd be all kinds of problems. Now, in some ways, the policies, if he had a compliant Congress that he could push, might push us into, Bernie Sanders might be able to bring us into a socialist future that would be very, very difficult to extricate ourselves from. That's a distinct possibility. But his ineptitude would become a liability. Bloomberg is a different situation because Bloomberg is deeply ideological, hates the Second Amendment. I mean, he is one of the biggest opponents of the Second Amendment on the political scene in the country, and has the dollars and cents to back it up in terms of the groups he funds and the ads that he buys. He's a big nanny state guy, as we know. He was the anti-soda guy. No more 60-ounce sodas. Right, which I will say, a 60-ounce soda is a little much. That's a lot of soda. But I'm not trying to take that big gulp out of your hands. I've actually never had a big gulp. Producer Mark, you can thumbs up or thumbs down. Big gulp, good, or you can tell me. No. Have you ever had one?
I've had one, but I've regretted it afterwards.
It's gross, right?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's really gross.
That's actually one of the parts of my diet. I cut out soda.
Oh, really, you were having soda before you cut it out? That's a giant.
Yeah, I mean, I used to drink diet soda because I don't drink coffee, so I need
some
the
people
caffeine.
say that's actually worse because the way that it
exactly.
affects your blood sugar and also the way that it affects hunger can be worse for you than it's been a week. I feel a lot better.
You know,
we should get one. By the way, we should get one of those guys that you make your own soda at home as an advertiser on the show because I'm a big believer.
The
in
Soda
that,
Stream.
Well, the word saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gave a free plug.
Yeah, whoa, hey, oh.
That was the original one.
May the best soda maker win here for a little sponsorship from the Bucks.
I've never used one, but I really like seltzer.
My parents have one at home,
so.
not to be named on air right now, that we just live off of it. I mean, we're just, because, a little bit of flavoring and the bubbles, and it goes a long way. When you think about how much sugar goes into, if you took a can of Coke and you just poured the sugar into it.
Disgusting.
It's disgusting. Yeah. You would never in a million years. But what's happening now are those companies, all these healthy drink companies get bought by Coca-Cola and these other companies now too. So they distribute them and they own that because people have realized that sugar is in the food war. And look, I'm a sugar and French fries are my weakness. Those are the
when
two
it's in
things.
chocolate, of course.
Well, of course. I mean, so sugar and French fries, but sugar is the enemy.
Yes,
it really is. And I remember there was a guy who he did look a bit like. He was known as Jesus Dave because he did look a bit like the sort of Northern Italian depictions from the High Renaissance of, our Lord and Savior Jesus. He had very long hair. He had this beard. I asked him, I said, what did you do? This guy came in. He was over 300. I mean, he was a big boy, a big dude. And he cut out sugar and walked, I think he said 3 to 4 miles every day, 6 days a week, basically, right? Every day. He'd walk 3 to 4 miles, cut out no sugar, nothing, not even like things like whole milk, for example. If you drink a glass of whole milk, it has like 10 or 12 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
Like there are things you wouldn't even think. Cut out all sugar.
Or like if you have a banana with your breakfast,
this dude
sugar.
evaporated and became actually a pretty good member of the rowing team. I mean, when I say evaporated, I mean he just like all adipose tissue disappeared, and it looked like a different human being. It was crazy, and that was all he did.
He definitely had some sort of surgery to get rid of the extra skin.
Oh, well, yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the guy's like personal habits were. I'm just saying. I asked him about it, and I said, "What did you do?" And he just said, "No sugar." And because the 3 to 4 miles a day. Strength training, as you know, is a more effective. I read about these things. I just don't live my life according to what I know from reading. Strength training is more effective than cardio. But even just getting into a caloric deficit, if you pull out the sugar, you will lose weight. That will happen. Yeah. So anyway, sugar is bad. See, we had a little health tip today on the Buck Sexton Show, courtesy of Producer Bark and Producer Buck. By the way, you're reminding me, I'm getting healthy. I'm cutting back on booze.
Okay.
Only mezcal on weekends. Maybe a glass of wine with if I have a nice dinner during the week, but like cutting way back on the booze. And I'm gonna try to keep the chocolate stash on lock until weekends.
See, I say I'm gonna be healthy, then I have a bunch of beer on Saturday, and I buy a Ben and Jerry's half baked.
Well, they
share with the wife.
They say if you are good 80% of the time, you're basically where you need to be, but that 80% can turn into 50% real fast. That's the problem.
Yeah, during the week last week, I was fine. No soda, no sugar, no nothing. Then the weekend came. I know
this has been a health care. How much are you down so far? Have you done it? Are you waiting on the measurements for a while?
I'm not going to measure myself.
Not for a while. Okay.
My first thing is cut out soda and just eat healthier.
All right.
I'm not going to go on a really strict diet. If I just eat clean, I'll be better.
I'm going to tell you, I'm actually trying to get. I'm also trying to eat clean. I've thought about even having a. Not that I'm being lazy and bougie, but I guess I'm admitting to being lazy and bougie. Having like a keto delivery service that will just send it's frozen, send it to you.
It's a very Manhattan thing to do.
It's a very Manhattan thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm aware, but I don't have time to cook because I gotta rock.
Where do you go
Hut.
grocery shopping in Manhattan?
What do you mean? There's grocery stores everywhere.
Is there?
We got Whole Foods here. Oh yeah, this place is fancy. But I'm looking to drop by June. I'm giving myself. I want to be down 15. I'm not going to share my actual weight on the air, but I will tell you how much I'm down by June. I'm looking to drop 15. If I can get to 20, that'd be amazing.
Sure.
But 15 pounds down by
Does
June.
that count adding muscle too? Because That's where the measurements get a little weird.
I know that's where the measurements. I don't know. We got to think about this, but maybe
muscle weighs more than fat.
I feel like we're stumbling onto like some kind of a Team Buck challenge here. You know, we could do everybody who wants to do. We got to come up with a cool hashtag for this, and you and I can like share some of whatever measurements we care to share, and then we'll both try to share a little bit of our journey here by June. Because obviously, dude, you live out by the beach. It's gonna be beach season.
I do. Well, I'm not gonna live out by the beach for long.
Well, yeah,
I want to move.
Nonetheless, you can still visit your folks out there.
Sure.
So yeah. So we're a little bit of a health kick here. Oh, wait, we were talking about Commie Bernie. Let's get back to that.
We have the radical idea that maybe we should have a government in Washington whose principles are based on love and compassion and justice, not greed and corruption and divisiveness. So our goal is to bring the American people together around economic justice, social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice.
This is Comrade Sanders telling you exactly what you will get if he becomes the president of the United States. I do think there are enough Democrats that are concerned about this that he will not be the guy. I do think there are enough Democrats at this stage who recognize the realities of a Bernie Sanders candidacy that it's going to, but you got to take it seriously. Let me go back to Bloomberg for a second, though. I'm going to do a little more on Sanders. Bloomberg can spend money on a level that no one has ever been able to spend money before in American presidential politics. No one will have ever done what he's doing. Can he buy the nomination? No, I don't think so. I don't see him being. But what does that even mean, though? Because forget about whether he could buy the nomination. Can he influence events enough such that he becomes in a very fractured, very divided Democrat primary? You have a guy who is ideologically a liberal. He is a leftist. He's a leftist on the nanny state, on health care, on climate change, on guns. He is a leftist. He's a man of the left. But he also understands business and he understands efficiency. Bernie Sanders offers you what would very quickly start to feel like the implementation of Venezuela-style policies in America. We wouldn't fall into disrepair the way Venezuela has quite as quickly. But Bernie Sanders offers you Venezuela, so to speak. Mike Bloomberg offers you Denmark. Offers you Sweden. Now, these are very rough analogies, but I'm saying he offers you, at least at the top level, government that would be more efficient, more able to deliver on the promises. Not entirely, because socialism is inherently flawed. It's not going to be what they think it will be, but it's a big state, big S state government that is able to give enough to the people to deliver on enough promises that it can maintain a majority of the vote, that it can stay in power. That's what really concerns me. Bernie Sanders, it'd be Jimmy Carter with less economic acumen. It'd be Jimmy Carter with less understanding of how to manage the markets and how to deal. I mean, that's what you're looking at, right? It'd be a disaster. I mean, Jimmy Carter, everyone kind of knows now that was a disaster. Bloomberg, perhaps presented to the Democrats, would be somebody who they could say, he gives us what we want ideologically, but he also is a more serious person as an administrator, as a leader, as an executive. So I can't tell you. I mean, no one knows where this primary is really going right now. I mean, there's no safe money or smart money, but if you're going to take the odds are still that I don't think Biden's going to be the nominee. I've been saying that from the beginning. I haven't wavered, but that's still the guy who, despite everything, is considered to be the best option here for those who want to go with where the numbers are trending. But I look at this race and I say to myself, who could really, I don't think Michelle Obama is going to want to get in, in a sense for the sort of the same reason that these British royals are leaving. It's better to be Michelle Obama and just do whatever you want and be super rich and have everybody love you. You want to deal with being the president? I don't think so. I think the same thing with Oprah too. I'm sure Trump has his days where he's like, was it more fun when I was a billionaire who could do absolutely whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, or like I actually have to give speeches and pay attention and do all this stuff? I'm sure he likes being president most days, but there are frustrations that come along with it. Bloomberg, though, is the guy who comes along and offers you a liberal vision of big government and the nanny state that is not run by a complete imbecile, which is what you would have with Bernie Sanders. And that perhaps will be more compelling to Democrats down the line than it seems right now. And I would worry about that more if he got elected. Mike Bloomberg is a bigger danger to the National Republican Party in many ways than Bernie Sanders is, because Bernie Sanders' ineptitude would collapse upon itself. Bloomberg would keep the trains running on time.